Delbert Blaine Simmons. I was born Holland County, Monterey, Virginia, at the end of Straight Creek Road, and we were born on the 21st. I have a twin brother named Blaine. My name's Blaine, middle name Blaine, and we were born on the 21st of February in 1947, and there was about 2 foot of snow on the ground at the time, and there was no doctor available, so we had a friend who helped Mom deliver, and we lived there for almost 20 years. My mother was Iva Mae Simmons, Puffenbarger Simmons, and my father was Henry Gordon Simmons. I had a twin brother and 4 sisters. Twin brother was Elbert Wayne Simmons, and mine was Delbert Blaine Simmons, and Wanda Gail Simmons was the youngest one. We were the next oldest, and then Linda Lou Simmons was the next oldest girl. The next oldest girl was Margaret, forgot her middle name. Anyway, Margaret Simmons, who married a Rigney, and the oldest one was Nina Mae Simmons, who married a Helmick. Linda married a Gardner, and Wanda married a Rexroad. I married a Doyle, and Wayne married a Ratliff to begin with. Well, like I said, we grew up on the end of Straight Creek near Monterey. We lived about 3 miles from Monterey, Virginia. Went to school at started in McDowell for 3 years, McDowell elementary school, and then moved to Monterey to the old schoolhouse there. And when they built the new school, we moved over to the new high school in Highland High, and there's where we graduated. And Wayne and I dressed pretty much alike the whole time we were going to school, and we only changed from dressing alike in our senior year, latest part of our senior year. First time we started dressing differently, and then we went our separate ways. Mom and Dad moved to Woodbridge because Dad worked at Fort Belvoir for about 35 years, and so Mom finally moved to Woodbridge with him, and they had a house in Woodbridge, and we would go down and visit with them. We started our life. As soon as I graduated in 1965, I left to go down to Woodbridge to find a job, and my brother and I both found a job working with the government at Fort Belvoir at Night Vision Laboratories, and I started my career in April of 1968, and I worked there for about 18 years, and then I went to Vint Hill Farm Station, which is electronic warfare directed for SECOM, and I worked there for probably another 18 years. And I had an electronics degree, and I had an associate's degree in electronics at the time, and became a project leader and worked my way up through the government. And then they bracked Vint Hill Farm Station in 1997 or 98. BRAC means a base closure. So they closed that base down, and they had to find us all new jobs. So I went to Alexandria, Virginia, to work for, still with SECOM, at the testing facility for the Army. And we tested all kinds of electronic warfare systems and things like that. And it was a great job. And Vint Hill was a great job too, working for intelligence electronics warfare systems. And eventually I I retired at 55 years of age from CCOM, and then I started working as a contractor for the government, doing similar things. We still tested electronic warfare systems for the Army, and I started at Fort Belvoir working for them, and then I moved over to got a job in Washington D.C. with the Department of Homeland Security. That's the Border Patrol that patrols all the borders of the United States. And I worked there for about 8 years in D.C. I slugged into work. I didn't drive. You just caught a ride with somebody that they had a slug line, and you just caught a ride in. It was a free ride. And I did that for about 8 years. And then things changed, and I lost my job there. So I got a job at Quantico, Virginia, and I worked there for about 4 years until I retired. So I had about 42 years in federal service, either as a contractor or an employee, and enjoyed the work. Traveled a lot, saw all kinds of places, did all kinds of things, and had a lot of fun doing it. I still love to travel today. But last 10 years or so that I worked for the contractor, I started building a house here in Bath County, Virginia, right at Bowler. Property splits the Bath and the Highland County line. And we built, I think, quite a nice home here, and we enjoy it back here. A little problem getting to doctor's appointments and things like that because they're so far away, or shopping for groceries, but we make it a full day of going to the doctor and shopping, and try to kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. But we enjoy it here. We hopefully will have lots of time traveling from here, and as long as our health stays good, we'll continue to travel. I started work for the government in April of '68, and Margaret Doyle and I got married in August of '68. I had been working with night vision for a couple months, and in May of 1969 I got drafted into the Army. And so I took my AIT at Fort Eustis, Virginia, and from there I went to Vietnam for a year, from January to December of 1970, and was lucky to get out of there and make it home, but I did. And that was an experience and a half. I'll never regret doing what I did for the service and to help my country. I was assigned, I had an electronics degree, and I tried to get into electronics, but the Army didn't see it that way. They wanted somebody to be a mike boat operator. It's a mechanized landing craft where you run up on the shore and drop the ramp, that kind of cargo vessel. And I was in the 1099 Transportation Company, and I took my basic at AIT I took basic at Fort Bragg, and then my advanced infantry training at Fort Eustis, Virginia, for the mike boats. And from there I got a call to go to Vietnam, and I was there from January to December of 1970. And I was the skipper of a LCM, they called it, landing craft mechanized, and it was a 40-ton cargo vessels. It had 4 671 diesel engines in the down below deck, and it had twin screws, and 2 of the engines on each side went to one transmission, which drove each propeller. So you had control of 4 engines, 671 diesel engines, to power all that because you carried 40 tons at a time up and down, and we carried all kinds of cargo all over the Delta, from Saigon to the southern tip of Vietnam. We carried troops, we carried ammo, we carried rockets. We were sometimes the 30-foot tides in Vietnam would cause you to, because you lived on the boat and you ate sea rats all the time while you were out on, and we would be on a mission for weeks or a month at a time. And the 30-foot tides would just create havoc over there because it would shift the sands in the river, and you'd run up on a sand barge and be stuck until the tide came back in. Or you'd be going down a small river and the tide would go out and leave you sitting high and dry on the bottom, and the bank is like 50 foot away from you on each side of the boat. So you sit there for 6 hours manning the guns until the tide came back in and you could move again. It was a hairy situation. And early on in the Tet of '68, the Viet Cong really wreaked havoc on a lot of the boats in my company. And it was even happening the year I was there too. But I was lucky to get out and come home safely. And I got home in time for Christmas, just before Christmas 1970. I met Margaret in high school. She's my high school sweetheart. Met in the junior year, I think it was, and as soon as we both graduated, she was a year behind me, but as soon as she graduated, we both went down to Woodbridge in the Fort Belvoir area and found jobs down there, and we lived in Woodbridge for a while in Lake Ridge, and then we moved to North Stafford, where we bought a house, and we lived there for the next over 40 years until we moved back here to this place after we had it built. And we had a son named Aaron. He was born in 1976, and he has married, and we now have a granddaughter named Kaya Ellen, and she's 14 years old now, and they live in Fredericksburg. Aaron works for he's the boss over the Parks and Rec for the city of Fredericksburg, and quite a hectic job for him, but he likes it. He likes to be outside and doing things like that. Well, I love to hunt and fish, of course. I grew up hunting and fishing, and now that I've gotten older, I don't do as much as I used to, but still like to hunt and fish, and I have a little shop where I do carpentry work when I can. And I've collected antlers over the years from deer and stuff like that, and I want to build a chandelier for my living room one of these days. Keep saying I'm going to do it. I've got all this stuff, I just need to have time to do it. So I'll get around to that one of these days. We hunt. I don't normally hunt for bear. I haven't never killed a bear, but we hunt deer and turkey, and of course we go fishing. Right here, we have a view of the Jacksons River Valley, and we fish in the Jacksons River, and we catch brown trout, rainbow trout, brook trout, different kind of trout that's native, some native and some not to this area. So have fun fishing and hunting. As long as our health stays good, we would like to travel. We've been almost all over the world. There's a lot of places we want to go yet, but we like Mexico. We've been to Mexico, I'd say 100 times in different places, different years, and we're still going to Mexico for vacations. Love it. Bucket lists. I'm checking off some of the bucket lists. One of them was go to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, on a vacation, and that's the first real big place we went to. I'd recommend that for anybody. They have wonderful excursions there, and it's a lot of fun. And one of our other bucket lists was go to Albuquerque, New Mexico in October and see the at the Balloon Fest, the Air Balloon Fest. And there they have about 600 balloons going up in the air at one time. It's a spectacular thing that you don't want to miss. And we've taken trips into Colorado where we ride the train up to Silverton and back in an open train, and in the fall of the year, and you take pictures. I bet I have 500 pictures of that one trip alone. So love to take pictures of everywhere I've been, and I've got quite a collection.